So let's just dive right in. If you're a high performer, you know this feeling. I mean, you've really felt it. That wild emotional whiplash that can pretty much define your entire work week. Well, today we are breaking down what's called the confidence pendulum. And we're going to get into exactly why so many incredibly successful people swing between feeling like a total genius and feeling like a complete and utter fraud.
1 minute, you are on top of the world, right? You feel like the smartest person in any room you walk into. Everything's just clicking. You are unstoppable. And then, maybe just a few hours later, this pit forms in your stomach. And you are just convinced that any second now, everyone is going to find out you have absolutely no idea what you're doing.
And that's the really crazy part. This isn't something that happens over years, or even months. This is the emotional roller coaster of a single week. You're in the exact same job, you are the exact same capable person, so what in the world is going on here?
You know, for the longest time, I thought of these two feelings as total opposites. You've got hubris, that feeling of untouchable pride, on one end, and then crippling self-doubt on the other. But what if they're not enemies? What if there's actually a deep hidden connection between them? Okay, so here's the absolute key takeaway. We've got to completely reframe how we think about these emotions. They aren't two different problems that we have to solve in two different ways. No, they are fundamentally deeply linked.
And I love this metaphor. They're roommates. Just think about that. They live at the same psychological address. They feed off the same emotional energy, and they just take turns being in charge. Getting this one idea really does change everything.
And listen, this isn't just some abstract feeling. We've got the data to prove it. And frankly, it's a little uncomfortable. Just look at this. 71% of CEOs report feeling like imposters. For female executives, it jumps to 75%. This isn't some rare bug in the system for high achievers. It's basically a feature of the operating system. Just let that sink in for a minute. That is the great paradox of all of this. It's not your weakness that makes you feel like an imposter. So often, it's a direct byproduct of your own competence and your ridiculously high standards.
So if they're roommates, how does one of them suddenly take over from the other? What is it that makes that pendulum swing so violently? Well, it almost always starts with a win.
So it begins with a big success, right? And that success strengthens the story you're telling yourself about your own greatness. But then that story inflates from, I did a great job, to this really dangerous thought, I cannot be wrong. And then, bam, reality hits. A project fails, a big deal falls through. That's the crash. And the pendulum doesn't just swing back to the middle. Oh no, it swings hard into crippling self-doubt.
And here's the real danger. Your sense of self, your internal state, it becomes totally dependent on all these external things you can't actually control. You're no longer leading from a stable, solid core. You're just getting dragged around by the latest result, the latest piece of feedback, the latest number on a spreadsheet.
Okay, so why does this all matter so much? I mean, beyond just feeling bad from time to time. Because this emotional whiplash has a very real and very serious consequence. It is a direct flight to something every single leader wants to avoid.
This is the bottom line. Plain and simple. This isn't just about managing your mood. No, managing this pendulum is about managing your energy, your sustainability, and frankly, the longevity of your entire career. The stakes are just incredibly high. And you can see how both extremes become this trap. On the high swing, when you're feeling invincible, you start to overcommit, you underestimate risks. But on the low swing, when you feel like a fraud, you overwork to prove yourself, and you micromanage everything to prevent failure. Both paths lead to the exact same place, total exhaustion. Just think for a second about the sheer amount of mental energy it takes to constantly rewrite the story of who you are. Am I a hero today? Am I a complete failure? That constant internal recalibration is like this massive, hidden tax on your focus and energy that you should be putting into, actually leading your team. All right, we've laid out the problem pretty clearly. But what is the solution? The goal isn't to stop the pendulum from swinging entirely. Let's be real, that's impossible. The goal is to shrink the arc of the swing, to find a stable center. This is what we're all aiming for. It's called calibrated confidence. And it's not loud or flashy. It's quieter. It's way less dramatic. It's a state that doesn't skyrocket with a little praise, and it doesn't totally collapse with a little criticism. This is the bedrock of sustainable leadership. And this is what it actually sounds like in your own head. It's all about nuance. It's about holding two seemingly opposite ideas at the same time. I'm skilled, and I'm still learning. Or I made some mistakes, and I can learn from them. This isn't weakness, my friends. This is true wisdom.
So how do we actually get there? Well, it's a pretty simple three-step process. First, you just have to notice when you're at one of the extremes. Second, you have to question that all-or-nothing story you're telling yourself. And third, and this is huge, you need to build a support system of calibrators, the people who tell you the truth, not just the cheerleaders who tell you what you want to hear.
This is such a powerful realization. That person at the very top of the swing, the one who feels invincible, that's actually a distorted version of you. And the person at the very bottom, feeling completely worthless, that's a distortion too. They're just extreme emotional states. They're not your true identity.
And this right here is the destination. The real you, the most effective you, lives in that middle ground. You are both capable and fallible. You are confident and you're still learning. And that's not just a more peaceful place to live, it's where real, sustainable, and effective leadership actually happens.
So let's end with a question for you to take with you. As you go about your day, as you head into your next meeting, just notice, where are you on the pendulum right now? Are you at the top, the bottom, or are you operating from that stable, calibrated center? Because the first step to changing anything is always awareness.